Welcome to the deep dive.
Today, we're diving into stand-up comedy. Not just for the laughs, though there are plenty, but for some pretty deep truths about, well, getting older.
Our mission today is really to unpack those shared experiences, aging, family, identity, all seen through the, let's say, very sharp and funny lens of one particular comedian.
We're looking at Susan Rice and how she uses these incredibly personal stories, these anecdotes, to shine a light on challenges and joys we can all relate to. It's kind of a shortcut, a way to understand these realities of aging that people don't always talk about openly.
Our source is a piece from her stand-up special. And what's great is her frankness. She turns these everyday, sometimes awkward struggles into something we can all nod along to or laugh about.
It reflects things back at us.
It's powerful, isn't it? Using humor to tackle things that can make us uncomfortable, it kind of disarms the anxiety around aging.
It reminds us we're not alone in these sometimes weird experiences.
Okay, so let's dive in. A good place to start is often where we first notice things changing, our own bodies.
Right. And Rice goes right there, the physical side of getting older. She talks about glasses, for instance.
So many focals, she says. Trying to navigate an escalator becomes this huge decision. Which part of the lens do I use now?
And from eyesight, she jumps into something, well, extremely relatable for many women, buying a bra. She paints this picture, spending like $150 on, and this is her quote, shit no one's going to see. And the physical comedy of it all, needing hydraulics to get it on, the image of passing out in Macy's because it's such an ordeal for a big girl.
That description is so vivid. Her boobs moving into her esophagus, the second chin cutting off her air. It's over the top, but it lands.
It's taking that private frustration, that physical struggle, and just blowing it up into this shared, almost cathartic laugh, acknowledging the indignities.
And she keeps that self-deprecating thing going. She mentions her bad knee.
From a stripping accident.
She was rounder then, too.
Right. So from these sort of everyday physical things, she pivots to medical stuff. Milestone.
Like a colonoscopy?
The colonoscopy, she talks about the initial dread. Then she completely flips it. Because of the propofol, what killed Michael Jackson, she calls it the best drug experience.
And says she actually starts looking forward to it.
It shows how we can find humor, this weird anticipation, in things that seem really intimidating.
And she points out a difference between how men and women handle it.
Men go, okay, I gotta do it.
Whereas
women turn it into an event, an alone day. Checking into Motel 6, taking a front with these doctors they've never met.
it's like trying to grab some control in a situation where you feel pretty vulnerable.
Exactly. And she takes that vulnerability and just pushes it into absurdity with that detail about asking the doctor.
Oh,
asking them to look for the Barbie shoe while she's under. How do you cope? You inject humor, madness into it.
Okay, so moving from the body and medical stuff, she also dives deep into family dynamic.
She talks about being that auntie.
The one parents warned the kids about, whispered about in the kitchen.
That's the one. Creates those very memorable memories that you just wish people would just fucking forget.
She has a perfect story for this, the family trip.
The trip to Bend, Oregon, and the horseback riding disaster.
The horse was
enormous. Made a Clydesdale look like a pony, she said. Its head had its own atmosphere.
And trying to get on it, the stirrup was way too high.
Leading to that amazing line, if I could get my leg up there, I wouldn't be riding a horse, I'd be a trucker's wife.
Just perfect.
And then needing 6 guys and a rope to hoist her up, only to end up being dragged.
Up for 300 feet. With the Titskin rototill comment. It's painful, it's embarrassing, but she makes it hilarious.
It turns that awful family vacation moment into something universal. We've all had those mishaps where things go wrong, and later, maybe much later, you can laugh.
That idea of shared experiences, even fuzzy ones, comes up again with siblings and friends, right?
Yeah, she talks about playing the Hey Remember game with her brother as they get older, but it gets so vague, especially with her 80-year-old brother trying to remember that guy lived down the street.
Or the guy that had the thing with the thing. It's maddening.
And it ends with, oh, he died, thank God, him or me, which is dark, but also funny in recognizing how memory shifts and how blunt we can get.
It is. And what about conversations with old friends, how those change?
And she makes how chats with old girlfriends used to be about men and concerts and goals.
And now?
Now, it's all procedures, just procedures. So she plans to shut these bitches up with gummies on a beach trip.
Okay.
But then there's confusion. Did we take them? Didn't we? Let's take more just in case.
Uh-oh.
Leading to them going clam digging completely high. It's embarrassing, funny, but also insightful about how friendships adapt. They find new shared realities, even if it's comparing medical procedures or getting accidentally wasted together.
She also touches on something really tough, though. Caregiving.
Yeah, she calls it the hardest job you'll ever do, and she speaks from experience. Her parents lived incredibly long lives
99 and 97.
and died just 2 months apart. She has this darkly funny take on them holding hands for 45 years.
What was it?
If one's going down, they're taking the other one with them. It's bleak, but it captures that intense long-term partnership right up to the end.
And her parents stayed sharp, didn't they? No dementia.
Amazingly sharp, especially her mom. A real pistol, like a cruise director planning outings.
Even planning trips to Costco for coffin deal.
Costco, they're having a twofer on coffins. Just incredible, and absolutely no filter.
The card game story.
Oh yeah, interrupting her friend's game to ask about erectile dysfunction and complaining about limp dicks, just completely unfiltered. It's funny because it's so unexpected, especially from that generation.
That lack of filter seems to run in the family. She mentions different dynamics with her parents. Dad was easygoing,
Dad would do anything I asked him to. Sweet guy.
but Mom was the pistol, even sharing pills.
Uh-huh. One for you, one for me. And that line, if I was going to kill you, I wouldn't use stool softener. It just perfectly sums up that feisty, practical, maybe slightly dangerous energy.
It's quite a picture of parent-child relationships in later life.
Yeah.
Complex, loving, but also kind of funny.
And all this really leads up to her big theme, the one that hits home for so many people.
Which is?
We all become our parents, eventually,
Yeah.
no matter how much we fight it when we're younger.
The inevitable. Looking in the mirror around age 40.
And just thinking, oh shit, when did she come in here? Seeing your mother's face looking back at you. It's that sudden, undeniable recognition.
And she sees it in herself, being like her mom.
Absolutely. Loud and proud, she says. Always put together the lipstick, the matching shoes and bag. Total greatest generation style.
And she has that story about her mom at the cardiologist.
Her mom, at 95, just bypasses the check-in desk entirely, walks straight down the hall to get on the exam table.
And when the nurse tells her to wait,
Her response is just gold. 95, does it look like I have time to wait? And starts unbuttoning her pantsuit, ready for a full physical, not just a consult.
that is amazing. That's wielding your age like a superpower. A certain disregard for the rules.
A mix of impatience and maybe wisdom. Speaking of parents and age, gifts. She talks about gifts for older dads.
The expectation is you'll just borrow or inherit whatever you give them.
But her brother goes rogue, buys their 95-year-old dad a fish and float tube.
Like an inner tube with waiters. For a 95-year-old.
Exactly. Her reaction is priceless. Grow the fuck up, San Diego. Calls it a Viking burial, especially since the dad only had one hip done.
Oh my God. It so perfectly highlights that generational disconnect. Well-meaning, but maybe slightly insane gift ideas.
Absolutely. And then her own last gift to her mom, the colonoscopy, which she frames as a spa day they did together.
Wow. That's a unique bonding experience. An act of love in its own way, right?
How love and care look different as parents age. It's not always flowers and chocolates. Sometimes it's coordinating procedures.
True. She also finds some humor in the perks of getting older.
She jokes about getting away with shit all the time, like stealing half the store because everyone just assumes she's off her meds.
Or men suddenly rushing to open doors or help her cross the street.
It's this funny observation about how society shifts its perception and treatment, sometimes in ways you can, well, exploit for comedy.
Her description of older men in casinos is also pretty sharp.
Completely infirm, nothing's worked for years, but they still think they got a shot.
The guy with the walker, he's wearing most of his lunch.
Still hitting on her with total confidence. It's kind of a funny testament to the enduring human ego, maybe, or just delightful delusion.
And she looks at youth trends, too.
She talks about the ear gauges, the hockey pucks embedded in the earlobes. And she combines that observation with this slightly surprising fact that ears keep growing your whole life. So her theory is kids with gauges must not have grandparents because they haven't seen the long-term effects. She pictures these huge holes when they're 65.
Big enough for grandkids, too.
Get in the truck by putting their foot right in there. It's such an absurd, funny image. A comment on trends, consequences, and generational gaps all rolled into one.
Okay, so wrapping this up, this deep dive into Susan Rice's comedy really shows how personal stories, even outlandish ones, can give us these universal truths.
Insights into aging, family weirdness, finding yourself later in life, all that stuff.
The shortcut to understanding these experiences delivered with both laughs and some real depth. Hopefully it helps you feel a bit more clued into the whole human journey.
Exactly. Humor as a way to get profound truths.
So, maybe something to think about after this deep dive Given that we all age and that maybe we do kind of become our parents, what parts of your own life or your family's quirks could you maybe embrace or find the humor in?
How can you navigate those changes ahead with a bit more laughter? And maybe, like she implies, how can we really learn to spot each other, to recognize those shared human moments, even when things get challenging or just plain weird?
Something to mull over. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.